Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar, Supercharge Your Commercial Strategy with AI. I am Harrietta Eleftherohornou, Vice President of AI Strategy and Global Operations at IQVIA, and I will be your host for today. We are giving 30 seconds more to a few more people to join as we see a long queue, and we are ready to kick off. Great, thank you for joining us today. This webinar is brought to you by Reuters Events and IQVIA, and it is part of our mission to accelerate innovation for a healthier world, underpinned by connected intelligence, including artificial intelligence. I am joined here today by three expert panelists from AbbVie, UCB, and Merck, world's top pharmaceutical organizations. I will let our panelists introduce in a second, and it'd be great if you let us know where are you based from. And meanwhile, I would like to hear from the audience, where are you dialing in from today? So please post in the chat, where are you dialing from today? While Edita, would you like to go first and introduce yourself?
Absolutely, and thank you, Harrietta. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on the time zone. My name is Edita Banach, and I'm Head of Oncology for Intercontinental at AbbVie. Overall, 11 years at AbbVie, prior to that AstraZeneca and consulting companies like Ernst & Young at PwC. And I look forward to actually exchanging some ideas with my colleagues and with you. And please do not hesitate to ask any questions, put them on chat, and we will take them with pleasure. Thank you.
Edita, thank you. I see we truly have a global audience. I'd like to say we have Italy, Slovenia, Mumbai, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Zurich, New Jersey. It's a truly global audience. Werner, would you like to go second?
Yeah, sure. Werner Rijmakers. I'm myself connecting in from Atlanta, working for UCB, mid-cap biopharma focused on neurology, immunology, and rare disease indications. I've been working on digital technology in the commercial landscape for more than 10 years. In my current line of work, I work on how we can actually enable omni-channel strategies through technology. So that goes from how do we create content more effectively, how do we clear and approve our content, how do we get it efficiently in our channels, and how do we personalize the messages that we can send to our HCP and patient stakeholders.
Great, Werner, thank you very much. And I see Paris, Michigan, Belgium, Portugal. The locations are only increasing. Chetak, would you like to go last?
Okay, thank you. And it's my pleasure, Harrietta and Reuters team, to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And my name is Chetak Buaria. I'm heading commercial operations for Merck's oncology business. And in that role, based in Darmstadt, Germany. So bringing some balance between East and West a little bit here. Yeah, as a part of my role, one of the topics that I'm passionate to drive about is operational excellence, and within that, how we can leverage technology like AI to improve our operations. So looking forward to exchanging some ideas and learning from each other here.
Great. Hello, back to Hungary. Hello to Seattle. Thank you, Chetak. We are ready now that we have introduced myself to frame our conversation. So at multiple points in the last 20 years, data or technology came along that went to scale. Data science, then it was big data analytics, then the big era of AI, machine learning, then came deep learning, generative AI, and now agentic AI. As I look at this latest era of artificial intelligence, we are part of an evolution. Therefore, panelists, what I suggest is that we don't restrict ourselves to generative AI only, although we appreciate that this is what is driving excitement recently in the market. And we talk about AI in totality and how it is shaping commercial strategies, commercial operation, and customer engagement. At IQVIA, we are proponents of the right solution for the right problem. And artificial intelligence is not the right solution for every problem. It is, of course, a better solution for many problems. And this is what we will discuss today. We want to keep it real, So for the audience, we will share real life examples with tangible proof points and tangible challenges that we are going through, what we see working in practice today, and then we will have an outlook ahead. How do we envision AI shaping the commercial world into the future? For you who listen to us, please feel free to submit your questions in the chat, and I will do my best either to ask throughout the discussion or we will leave 5-10 minutes in the end. With that, let's dive in our first topic of artificial intelligence enhancing customer engagement. And Chetak, I would like to ask you first, what it is about generative AI that it is new? How do you see it, an AI in totality, shaping and improving customer engagement? And it'd be great if you could talk about a little bit today, and then how do you see it shaping into the next 5 years?
Sure, Harriet. It's a great question. And for me, I think why this wave of AI is different than what we have seen over the years. And as you rightly pointed out, AI has been around for a while, for a couple of decades already. But this time, the difference is that thanks to Gen AI specifically, AI is a dinner table conversation. And even my 10-year-old daughter is using ChatGPT, and that is difference. And this is really transformative. At the same time, what is happening is that because of this generative part of AI, it certainly is opening up new vistas of applications which were not easily foreseeable in the past. So it's really fascinating phase of the evolution, and really it will define in next 5 years where we will land. And for me, I think to your question on what we are already seeing in the near term, clearly around how we manage insights, how we improve our individual productivity. Those are what I call as low-hanging fruits already getting realized pretty quickly. And where we stand is just to understand how we can leverage AI generally and Gen AI specifically to create competitive advantage, because that's where you will make a difference for the organization, but also in the marketplace. And happy to talk about them along the conversation, but I'm sure there are other panelists who would like to share their perspective as well.
Yeah, thank you. It'd be great to hear from Werner. So we heard Chetak talking about insights and productivity being the low-hanging fruits. Werner, what are your thoughts?
Well, coming then specifically to the omni-channel area and the content area, which is obviously a prime case for Gen AI and AI in general. For me, looking 2 and 5 years ahead, it makes me reflect on how we have evolved as an industry. So in the last couple of years, probably over more than 5 years, we've all been talking about moving from a push to a pull type of mentality in the omni-channel space. Now, if we are really honest to ourselves, I think none of the pharmas I've seen have really succeeded in that. So we have at max moved into segmented messages going out still in a very pushy manner. Why? Because there were always problems to get things as well. You can create the content more dynamically and personalized, but you still need to get it through your clearance. You need to get it through your MLR cycles. Now, Gen AI for me in the next couple of years brings their renewed hope that we can accelerate within the content and omnichannel space both capabilities, that we can increase the content generation with Gen AI, that we can also, in lockstep approach, evolve the clearance side of the house. And there I really see an exciting time ahead with the opportunity to connect next best action targeting type of capabilities that are currently very active in most pharmas go-to-market models with content and evolve to a next best content capability. And equally, where all the hype these days is on modular content and content assembly in the omni-channel space in a more agile way, how we can link that with AI to create pre-engineered content based on the exact HCP persona. So moving away from manual content authoring to more automated suggestions. Now in that, there's also some challenges, let's say, that we are still, where things are still rough and that we need to work through. So we know that our data foundations are not super strong for most companies. The way we manage promotional claims, the way we manage scientific messages, the way we address our creative, for historical reasons, the big variances that exist between countries, etc. They're not at prime time, let's say, to fully leverage and go there. But I do expect in the next 2 years there will be plenty of opportunity in those areas.
Great and very honest perspectives. I love that. Tita, what are some of the challenges that you have faced in scaling artificial intelligence for customer engagement? Werner talked about data foundation, and he talked very honestly about the fact that plenty of pharma companies are on the journey, but nobody has really quite realized the push to pull. What are your thoughts in that?
Thank you, Henrietta, for this question. And I would like to start with definition of strategy. Actually, what strategy is, as you know, it's like topic of our webinar. So it's like strategy is a set of choices that are made ahead of time on the fact of uncertainty to create value. And I think that one of the biggest challenge with artificial intelligence, even, you know, some people perceive as a new, artificial intelligence was actually first mentioned in 1956, many years ago, but it developed, like I say, slowly. And now we see kinds of, you know, excitement around that, and also some kind of uncertainty. So I think that a lot of challenges that we need to navigate legal complexity and legal landscape with that. Data privacy, compliance, that should be actually addressed by internal procedures and policies. And I think that Pharma, as you know, as America, UCB and us, we are absolutely regulated, and that's why we do not make such a significant steps, because we would like to make sure that we move wisely and we are moving with caution, because at the end of the day, the most important stakeholder is patients. So generally, AI is promising, and I will be discussing some of the projects actually that we implemented at AbbVie. But at the same time, I think that also building trust within the organization, within people like Salesforce, infield team, medical team, and all the employees requires training, requires investment, requires, you know, enhancing capabilities. So there are a lot of challenges on the horizon that we are facing, and I think that, you know, coming back to the definition of strategy is also uncertainty, because today, for example, we can say that we can use chat, for something, and we can use other application to translate from one language to another. But confidentiality of data, like, you know, we have very kind of strictly confidential data that we cannot put into these tools, because we can actually breach confidentiality or expose a company at risk. So we need to navigate it in a very wise way.
I agree in full. We talked about, you know, data privacy, compliance, trust, and at IQVIA, we feel exactly the same. I would like to elaborate a little bit on that, but I would like to give the audience to weigh in, especially on the challenges around scaling artificial intelligence, because like I said, we really want to keep it real. So can I have the Reuters team help me with our first poll? Thank you. Which is to say, what are the Gen AI challenges that you are facing in your organization? At IQVIA, I must say that data privacy, data foundation, strategic decision making, which strategic bets one needs to place in order to see the value of AI are some of the common themes that clients come to us. And in fact, one of the most successful areas that we work with is around what we call defensible data in AI, which means that as we are scaling our AI systems, if somebody would challenge us, is your data ready? Is your data fit for purpose? Is your data private and compliant enough according to the new regulations that are being put in place? How would you defend that? And I would like to hear from the audience if these are some of the common themes or if there are others.
I will also add one of the topic that, one of the challenges lies from human resources perspective. But I think it's also opportunity, right? That people can transfer, to new area to be experts at artificial intelligence. I think that's, it's not very easy to be expert at artificial intelligence because it's a developing area. And of course, we navigate uncertain reality at the moment, but I think that it also gives us opportunity actually to upscale as humans I strongly believe that artificial intelligence is something that can help us if we navigate it in the right way. It's a challenge for the organization to actually build some kind of departments, upskill people with knowledge of artificial intelligence. But I think that it's critical, because if you would like to move faster, and I would like to also hear from my colleagues, how they navigate, capabilities within the organization. But definitely something that human resources department should look at, what kind of marketers of the future will be recruiting to actually manage this artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all these tools that actually future will bring to our table.
A great perspective, and a very interesting perspective from Paul in the audience. He says, marketeers are risk averse. Of all the functions, I would find marketeers are very creative. I don't know if Chetak or Werner, would you like to weigh in?
No, indeed, Harriet, I have a thought which falls under the category of others. And for me, the challenge that I see, and especially when we talk about the commercial domain, we talk about customers, how do we stay authentic to the customer? Just look at our own personal lives. As soon as we call a helpline and realize that there is a chatbot at the other end, we are not motivated to continue. We don't see that going too far. How common it is nowadays on social media. You see a post, you can see the image, and this is coming from ChatGPT, and you lose the connectivity. And this is very natural. For me, that will be one big challenge, how we stay authentic to our customers while still benefiting from all the power of AI at the end.
And Henrietta, to the question that you asked from the chat, right, as in how are marketeers being risk averse? I must say, most marketeers that I know in our company, they're for sure not risk averse, and they're very eager to try out new stuff. Now, what I do see, something that we need to change, is GenAI is so transformative that we also need to change our delivery models, how we go to market, how do we operate. And I feel that we are still at that pivotal moment where our marketing functions are still ingrained in that past way of working, let's say, where there's a certain role split between the marketeer, the creative agency, how you actually you set up the omnichannel campaign, how you work with your paid media, how you distribute, etc. And that we're not to the fullest are able yet to capture the value of GenAI. And that the only way to do that is to rethink the role distribution between what should agencies be focusing on, where do they bring value for the pharma industry in the next 5 years to come, 10 years to come, what are certain in-house capabilities we want to stand up as a company, and how do we actually do the campaigning and make sure that we link it with personalization. So it's a good question, and it relates for me to the current operating model we're still largely in.
Yeah, totally agree with all the points. And, there is a ton of questions and great points also made in the chat. I will try to summarize a few now, and then I will try to ask the questions in the second segment. Seeing the value and measuring the value of generative AI is 45% of our answers from the audience, as well as data privacy. These are the top two challenges that we see. And then the third is talent and time to develop, which is roughly the top challenges that we also observe in our organizations, the ones that we are discussing with our clients all the time. As we've touched on challenges, and we all want to stay grounded in this truth that there is opportunity, but we are working through it. It'd be good to discuss some perhaps major breakthroughs. I don't know if it's quick wins or bigger wins that you have had in customer engagement to date. So I would like to ask Chetak, did you have major wins to date, customer engagements with artificial intelligence? How did you achieve that?
Indeed, a couple of use cases coming to my mind. One is in the space of dynamic targeting. Because of the power of AI, you can drive precision targeting both from a field force deployment perspective, but also wherever possible when we do digital advertisement, for example. Based on the profiling, you can have dynamic content getting displayed based on the background criteria of the user or visitor of that digital platform. So you see that your revenue spend is getting more and more precision driven, which helps to improve efficiency and improve targeting of your content. So that's clearly one space that has evolved and matured fairly. The other space is looking inwardly how we can improve some of our internal processes. So when it comes to, for example, again, commercial domain, customer-facing staff, for us, rep is still at the center of driving customer engagement. And the question is how we can leverage AI, especially generative AI, to improve capability of our customer-facing staff. So there's one idea which is gaining a lot of traction, still at an early stage, but something that has really caught attention of many in the organization is how can we develop a digital twin of HCP? Just imagine having a digital twin of your toughest customer, which is also profiled based on your segmentation criteria, giving you different persona to practice your engagement skills. And as a rep, you get a feedback not only from a kind of accuracy of key messages that were supposed to be delivered, but also how you conveyed those messages and the feedback loop, which gives you also a safe environment to practice. So for me, these are a couple of really fascinating topics already emerging in the space, and many more hopefully to come as well.
Thank you. And Edita, what are your thoughts? We heard from Chetak that, digital twin and precision targeting are a couple of areas that they've seen breakthroughs.
Absolutely, and yeah, it's like, and I really like, wise comments from the audience. We are discussing and we are actually proceeding through our discussions. There are absolutely excellent comments, like that actually humans we should orchestrate actually artificial intelligence, and we should also start small because we should dream big definitely, but we should start small. So one of the projects that actually I have implemented with my fantastic team when I was working in specialty care was actually unlocking the promise of artificial intelligence in finding patients with HCV. Actually, finding patients with HCV is very difficult because it's a blood-to-blood transmission, and there are specific group of people actually living with HCV. So everybody was laughing at the end of the day that we were supposed to do it maybe in 6 months. Our ambition was 2, but at the end of the day, we implemented that after 2 years of discussions, with our internal stakeholders, with actually making sure that this project is worth pursuing with our enthusiasm and excitement. So it's like a little bit machine learning, finding people, these algorithms where they exist, and connect with them to care for some kind of disease awareness activities. It was fantastic, actually, project that we could use, this kind of tools to navigate disease awareness program. And I think that based on my experience in HCV, I think that it could be definitely scalable in obesity, in other actually, therapeutic areas that we would like to make sure that patients can get better life. So that's something that we can really navigate. One of the question from audience was also like clinical trials, navigation of clinical trials. Of course, it's like big actually potential. It's like a little bit beyond commercial strategy that we are discussing today. We could probably devote 3 hours for that. But definitely, there are a lot of benefits actually, implementing artificial intelligence, and LV actually is pioneering some of the solutions. I encourage you to go to our website and read a little bit more. But definitely, unlike different kinds of configurations of the drug, fast decision making that we can definitely, and maybe in the future, tailor drugs for people. It's like, something dreaming big, but I totally agree that start from small thing. And with this artificial intelligence project for disease awareness in HCV, we started with pilots in one of the country, and then we scaled to another countries. We learn from our mistakes because we we need to admit that, if we explore something new, there is a room for actually making some of the mistakes. And I encourage you actually to experiment. And I know that I used to work in legal and compliance department before I moved to commercial, that we need to navigate this in a kind of smart way. So sometimes, people from commercial are saying it takes too long, and we are risk averse. And but at the end of the day, it's for our safety to actually minimize risk and making sure that we orchestrate artificial intelligence and not artificial intelligence orchestrate us.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more with the last statement, and we have a few questions that are reserved to ask in a second, mindful of time. We've talked a little bit about customer engagement. I would like to have the opportunity to ask a few questions about commercial operations. And there is a big promise around artificial intelligence, now generative AI, bots, digital twins, Chetak, and agents as they are coming of age, to drive significant efficiencies, right? So in what ways are you experimenting or are you realizing efficiencies through artificial intelligence today in your organizations, and how are you measuring it, right? Because there's a whole other challenge on measuring that return on investment, or even questioning whether the return on investment is at the expected level. So I would love your honest perspectives.
I can share my view, Harrietta, on that, and would love to hear from fellow panelists as well. When it comes to operation, I mean, as I said at the start, one of the quickest win that I have seen is around individual productivity. Something, for example, of company of our size, we have our internal version of ChatGPT, what we call as MyGPT, and it was really kind of a pioneering effort from the organization to open it up for all the employees. And all of a sudden, you have that safe environment to very quickly improve your day-to-day work, drafting an email, creating a newsletter, and it just becomes so much intuitive now and improves efficiency on day-to-day tasks. We talk about Copilot in 365, Microsoft 365 environment, and it just eases. I mean, these are simple, quick wins, but when you do that at a scale of 50, 60,000 employees in a large organization, you see a huge multiplier effect in terms of productivity gain that comes through. To an extent that very quickly now it is becoming already an indispensable part of our daily routine. So that's one. And you can extend that even in the commercial domain, for example, like how can I save my reps time in feeding data into the CRM, and how can there be a co-pilot for rep to make sure that you can talk to CRM and you pull out the insights without punching so many keyboard keys and things like that. So for me, everything around efficiency gain makes a lot of good sense. Eventually, you can extend it to, for example, some of the toughest processes that we need to navigate in commercial domain. We talk about medical legal review that happens for all the promotion material, and give and take for a large global organization. We spend a significant amount of time in going through this review process for the right reasons, but it just takes so much time, and it takes that much time away from us delivering that message in the marketplace. And when you think of it, a lot of those review comments are kind of repetitive in nature. So the question is, could there be an AI use case which helps us to accelerate that learning curve? How could there be a co-pilot which tells me the probability of my material getting reviewed and approved with likely suggestions as well? So a lot of those efficiency gains are already getting realized, or at least some of the use cases are already under construction. So that's where I see the biggest opportunity here.
Chetak, thank you. So if I were to summarize, we're talking about changing the way we work on an everyday basis, and we add up those marginal daily gains to see these multiplier effects that you've talked about. And you know, there are two camps around this. There are the use cases that we see this being realized, and there are other use cases that you really can't quantify what is the real productivity saving. If you know, there's just a summary email prepared for you, is it real productivity saving for an organization? I don't know if Edita or Werner, any of you would like to weigh in on that. What do you see in your organization in terms of productivity and realized savings so far?
Well,
Please go ahead.
Cool. To the point of Chetak, I think it's important to look at the AI there in totality. It was referenced earlier. We need to make the entire ecosystem end-to-end work. So to the earlier question as in how do you monitor efficiency gains or how do you improve things, it's important that you don't try to swallow the entire Gen AI topic, or you try to solve that as a whole and monitor one performance topic. So thinking about also making sure that the pilots you run are scalable and are of success. I read a comment in the chat that I fully agree with. Still keeping that human in the loop. Those are typically the easiest things you can enhance efficiencies. So pilot in those first. So practical example on our side in the commercial landscape with Gen AI, we're primarily focusing on, let's say, people who call our UCB Cares help desk, where we need to respond to medical information questions to help with the exact write-up or the standard response document that needs to go out. You have great opportunity to use Gen AI there. Still, you have a human, a trained human in between you and the patient, who's augmented by Gen AI. So it's those prime use case, and on which all of these individually you can monitor the efficiency gains, and it all adds up. But if you try to start creating the overall efficiency gain with Gen AI in the entire omni-channel space, you get gridlocked and you don't move at all. And before you know it, the technology is moving so fast that by the time you sort of have an acceptable business case for everyone, you're 6 months later and the technology landscape has evolved or the vendor landscape has evolved, and you immediately need to rethink what you were doing and you don't get anywhere to start with.
And Werner, as we stay on this subject, I was wondering, in your organization, how do you scale AI literacy, best practices, lessons learned, so that you realize the efficiency?
So, and that depends, of course, on the use case. So, of course, as many companies, we have a centralized governance to drive and to steer the large, big use cases, also to make sure that the employee productivity topics, as in how do we integrate, for instance, Microsoft Copilot in the organization, how do we make most of those things, make sure that there's an overall AI strategy. So we're working on that. But then additionally, we're also making sure that we cut the sausage in pieces, let's say, in the respective specialist domains, as in how do we do targeting, how do we do omnichannel content creation, and that we look there at those bespoke use cases to also drive that innovation forward. So it sort of balances each other. So on the one hand side, you have the overall company evolution and you evolve the people and you train the organization as in how to use Gen AI on a day-to-day basis. Yet you're still able to progress on certain spot opportunities with Gen AI, because some of these spot opportunities, they will also disappear by themselves. In the introduction, I talked about modular content. There are opportunities to do authoring with modular content and to train people. Now, if I need to train the entire marketing organization on how to use modular content and some initial AI capabilities in that, I will probably face a change journey for my marketing and agency landscape of 1 year, potentially 2 years. In 1 or 2 years from now, the entire landscape will have evolved and will have moved into dovetailing with next best action, and potentially some of these steps are no longer needed. So it's that balancing act that you need to keep with training the people, making sure you evolve the workforce, while also making sure that you reap immediate benefits and that you evolve.
Very interesting perspective about the fact that the field might have moved in 2-3 years. Sometimes I concur with that, but there is a big debate about that. I would like to hear from Chetak. There is a lot of hype, right? And I would say a lot of noise about AI this time round disrupting operations. And, you know, it is real to a large extent because we have AI adoption at the highest rates ever. So we should acknowledge that. There is, however, a lot of hype around, you know, AI is going to replace a lot of jobs and various things are going to get automated. And we have a clear question from the audience about, you know, will AI replace the human contact in the sales rep context. You talked about digital twins, and I would like to start with you to get your perspectives as we shift from what we see today working to where we might be in the next 2 to 5 years. Do you believe that this major disruption is coming? Do you believe, like Werner, that maybe in 3 years there is something else that hits us? What are your thoughts around the disruptive potential of this wave of generative AI?
So, Harriet, for me, clearly this is here to stay, and this is going to be one of the biggest disruption. And there are research out there which predicts that it is as big as internet and many other path-breaking evolutions that we have had as humankind. Having said that, I go back to the point that I made earlier about being authentic to our customer. At the end, the fact of life will remain that you will be dealing with other human being on the other side of the table. And to that extent, human will stay in the loop to stay relevant, stay authentic. And I think Edith talked about our obligation towards society as pharmaceutical industry, which means that we will still have final human approval of our promotion content before it goes out of the organization. So to that extent, I don't think job will be at least what I believe is job will be transformed. Let me put it that way. So the point is, when I think of jobs of the future, the challenge is, how do I visualize my job description in this world where AI is going to be the bedrock and given, and how I, as a professional, transform myself to be relevant in that world? And that will be true for our business strategies as well. Sometimes in the organization, we talk about that, should we have a AI strategy? And my view is that no, we should not. We don't need AI strategy. What we need is the business strategy that is relevant in AI world. That's what we need. Similarly, that goes to the professionals as well, how we make sure that we upskill ourselves and move into a role where we can benefit from AI, as we made the point earlier, that it's not AI driving us, but other way around, how we benefit from AI and improve our productivity.
No, great perspective. And Edita, what are your thoughts?
I agree, and I think that actually we should use our artificial strategy to really build bridge between purpose and action. And sometimes, we are really focusing on what kind of capabilities we are developing, internally. And I think that generally we invite our physicians, for our partners, to advisory boards, to listen to their feedback, to actually get their insight about, some kind of the strategies. And I think that we didn't think, so far that we should really listen to their feedback, how they would like to partner with us in the future as well, because it's like a mutual collaboration at the end of the day, to make sure that, we, as a pharma, have this social responsibility, and we change the world for the better. And I think that it's a lot of things that we need to do to go externally to actually shape also, this reality around us, because in order to pioneer, in order to be ahead of curve, as somebody said, we need to zoom in and zoom out from time to time, to make sure, okay, we build absolutely great capabilities internally, but how these capabilities will work in real world at the end of the day, because it's the same like drug discovery. You go through clinical trials, you test this drug, you commercialize, you launch, you promote, and it's a lot of steps. It's an absolutely long journey, and I think that with these solutions, like it's a commercial focused solutions that actually fuel our strategy, we should actually go a little bit the same way, navigating, all risk and opportunities, also, taking into account all these legal and compliance guidelines that we should actually follow.
And I see in the chat, by the way, a great question also asking around how do care models, etc., evolve, and how do engagement models evolve? I think it's a great question, because we also should not only reflect on efficiency gains or operational gains we make as a farm, but how the outside world is impacting us. So really appreciate that question. I was having just recently a conversation with a colleague from another pharma company on this topic. And when we think about the scope I work in most, let's say omni-channel, we're still very much grounded as pharma companies, as in how do our channels work and how do we make Gen AI make the most out of our channels? So how do we personalize a website experience? How do we make sure an e-detail or a core visual aid is transferred, or an email personalization? Yet I especially like that question on the transformation of care, because the discussion I had with colleague in industry was really about how do the channels themselves evolve? How is content consumption going to evolve by our stakeholders in the next 3, 4, 5 years to come? So you see ChatGPT, OpenAI coming with their own search engine. You see the way that people are consuming content is totally changing. So we should also fundamentally ask ourselves, the investments we are doing on websites, on specific channel materials, are that the same channels that will be out there in 3 years from now or 5 years from now? And how do we still have control over the content or the framework in which the content is being delivered, and how do we hook ourselves into that? So really great question there in chat.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same, Cedric. Thank you very much for that. We are imagining a lot with artificial intelligence, while we want to stay grounded to how we are managing disruption and change as we go along. And as Aditya said, it's an agile, iterative journey that we are all with the vision that there are areas that are going to be really disruptive and reimagined. And I want also to say to another comment, Amy, this is an excellent point around the ethical and responsible use of artificial intelligence. We are all committed to, I would say this is the cornerstone of anything and everything around artificial intelligence. Therefore, it's not something to be debated or questioned, right? In this discussion, we take it for granted that for pharmaceutical companies and for all of us in this highly regulated industry that we have been serving for decades, this is the cornerstone, the safe and responsible use of artificial intelligence as we're going through the scale-up phase now. I would like to hear from the audience, because we have great questions and comments. And we could get the Reuters team to help us with the second poll, please. Right. How are you preparing for the anticipated disruption of AI and Gen AI in commercial operations? And as we do that, there are a couple of questions that the audience has asked. The first one is to Aditya. You mentioned quite a bit privacy and compliance. It'd be great if you could share a couple of real-life examples around privacy and compliance that are relevant to AI and generative AI in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the question. So it's like a lot of discussion is going around whether, for example, European Union, and I came from Europe actually, so I know that, European Union is supposed and discussing a lot of regulations around pharma, and whether, for example, US will be less restricted around, artificial intelligence. That's the one point that we need to navigate actually, like working internationally, depending, what kind of programs we are implementing, making sure that we also look at external regulations, not only internal regulations. Actually, internal regulations mostly are more advanced and more strict than external in most of the cases in pharma companies. So we have, policies and procedures. But for example, even, it's like saying, looking at HCV patients and trying to identify HCV patients, we could most probably go to hospitals and try to actually organize project. And there are some actually done by hospitals and by doctors independently based on, blood tests and trying to find these patients that characterize, as HCV patients, to give them disease awareness that they should be tested. It's not so easy due to, this confidentiality and all this data that hospital has on their site, actually. From our perspective, also, like, using all these tools, like chat or whatever that help us, as Chetak mentioned, with emails. It's we should be definitely very careful what we are putting there, because it's like we do not know how it will be used. So actually, it's a scrutiny that we should always bear in mind what we are putting in even if we use it for private use, even if we publish, posting the link in social media, it's the same, that going to some of artificial intelligence tools that can help us. For example, we would like to prepare nice email, show that you have great kind of order of your thoughts, but at the end of the day, you do not know how this will be used in the future, and you can actually reveal kind of confidential information. So it's a lot of the internal and external procedures, that we should definitely navigate. But I will be very happy, to observe in the future, like landscape on the European side and landscape on the US side, how it will be changing. I spoke to some of my colleagues who are actually still on a law firm side, that they are working as lawyers, and they told me that they believe that it could be like a two kind of powers, that with European regulations would be a little bit suppressed, and with US it could advance quicker. But it's as Pharma, we operate globally. If I would be happy to hear from some biotech that are only US centric, how they actually develop artificial intelligence, because going through regulations and addressing all of them, it's kind of tall task, I must say. So it's like chapeau bas to all people who are trying now to put everything in place to secure the companies, and actually change a little bit our mindset, like make a very step to be more risk optimist, not so many risk averse.
Thank you, Edita. And AI governance and regulations is a whole different webinar.
Yes, it would be like discussion.
So much to talk about. I would really like to honor the audience and ask a couple more questions that I see in the chat. Are there any real chatbots that you've seen in practice, Chetak and Werner, driving commercial engagement in your organizations? And I would like to couple this with another question, which I love. What about content strategies? And I really reflect on that as well. What about content strategies and engagement strategies that promote human connection? At the end of the day, have you thought about that? Is it part of your discussion and your strategy in your organizations?
I can go first on the chatbots, the chatbot items and altering of materials and all of that. So I've seen plenty of innovations, let's say, all going directionally and evolving the industry as a direction to that, let's say, where the real value will come from, which will bring adoption at scale of those type of chatbots and Gen AI to alter content, is when it comes to the integration in the overall ecosystem, when it's about integrated into the overall content channels that are available with the CRM data, with everything. So to date, most of the items are very spot based, or they are only very vertically integrated in one vendor specific solution. And we all know that typically a pharma company, you have like a mixture of solutions, and it always sort of goes wrong somewhere in the handoff between systems. About promoting the human interaction on to that second topic very much relates to the role of the sales force and the role of the people in general and the human connection. I believe most people at UCB do believe that is going to remain critical, and that human interaction will be at the core of every interaction. So how do we bring suggestions to the field force to make sure they have the most meaningful dialogue with the physician? How do we make sure we also take those conversations that are happening with physicians or with patients as an input to steer our organization in the better direction, or to make sure that we take those nuances from the market? I do not believe that we would be able to run an industry with generalistic Gen AI models where we actually forget about the humans who are actually generating the data or the insights or the stuff that we need to address. So Chetak, interesting to hear your views on this.
You're spot on. I will only give a slightly different spin to your question. So first one, when it comes to have I seen chatbots really standing out and doing a good job? My point is, what's your reference point for the judgment? Is it chatbot better than having nothing? Yes, for sure. It certainly helps the customer to navigate through the complexity. We see it also with our internal systems where we have chatbots, which allows us to navigate some of the internal systems very effectively. Has chatbot reached to a stage that it can replace, for example, a remote nursing support in a patient support program? Not yet there. So that's my take when it comes to chatbots. The other point around human in the loop, fully agree. As we mentioned earlier in the conversation as well, for foreseeable future, at least next 3 to 5 years, human on both sides will stay at front and center. Having said that, expectations on both sides, especially on the customer side, will be that now that AI is given, I expect you guys to be better in understanding my need and driving your precision messages, which matches to my needs and behavior. So that will be the expectation. I mean, we now live in the world of Netflix and Amazon's on our personal life. So you will see increasingly that expectation coming to pharmaceutical industry as well, that when you guys approach us as customers, we expect you to be smart in understanding our needs and be much more targeted with your engagement than what it used to be in the past.
And great points about the all-rounded engagement across industries, not just the pharmaceutical and the healthcare industry, about how we change as consumers and as human beings. And there is a great question in the chat. The answer from our poll showed that currently you are all investing heavily in talent upskilling and change management and in data and technology infrastructure. As it relates to talent upskilling and change management, Suyi has a great question, which I was going to ask anyway. So thank you, Suyi, for the segue. What are the key competencies and mindsets that professionals should develop to ensure that the disruption caused by generative AI becomes an opportunity rather than a challenge? And this is really talking to the growth mindset, that we appreciate the opportunity that comes with AI. We have the appetite to realize it. Therefore, we should grow and evolve ourselves. So what are your thoughts?
I can share at least a couple of thoughts, which I believe will be cornerstone. One is curiosity. Just be curious, because this is opening up new ways of doing things, and there is an element of curiosity which is needed. And I think Werner called it growth mindset, which goes hand in hand. So that's one. The other piece, which is, in my opinion, unique about AI and every initiatives that is linked to AI is having that agile mindset. And I use this phrase when it comes to AI, perfection is enemy of good. So don't wait for the perfect solution to emerge. Dirty your hands. So try for good. Yes, of course, not at the cost of compliance or some of the guardrails that drives pharmaceutical industry, but strive for good than perfect, and eventually it will get better as we go along. So those are like a couple of attitudinal skills, that, if I can call that.
These are great points, and I would like to leave some time so that we talk a little bit about strategy. We talked about customer engagement, and we saw the opportunity of artificial intelligence driving personalization, especially generative AI. We talked about the use of chat in the commercial operations. We definitely see the opportunity and the disruption that is coming in the sales rep engagement, and there have been plenty of comments there. Now let's take a step back and think what Edita said in the beginning. Developing a commercial strategy has been something that we have been doing for decades, right? What is artificial intelligence role there? Edita, help me understand. Are you using currently with your team in all your ventures artificial intelligence to drive strategic decision making, to shape the strategy?
I think that actually strategic decision making at the moment should stay with human being until we develop really the good solution. But still, as somebody mentioned on chat and we discussed, we should orchestrate it, because artificial intelligence can help with a lot of decisions making. We can make faster decisions. We can actually analyze a bigger set of data, etc., comparing to human if we just have time. But at the end of the day, it should stay with us actually to make this decision. And I would like we have only 5 minutes. That everybody share their thoughts. But I joined Pharma because actually I wanted to join industry when I was moving from consulting, industry that operate on feelings as well, that we actually do something really personal for patients. And I think that if we forget about that, because I do not think that even, in 30 years from now, artificial intelligence will be human, feeling person. I think that we can lose this identity. We can lose this identity. We should integrate artificial intelligence, definitely, because it's something that can really help us, to be better, develop better drugs, making faster decisions, analyze a bigger set of data to reach more and more patients, and as I mentioned, change the world for the better. But at the end of the day, it's a lot is about changing life of patients and their families and their actually personal touch that most probably artificial intelligence will not achieve at all.
Couldn't agree more with the statement. We have 4 minutes to go. So Werner, could I ask what is your quick perspective around data and AI evolving as a driver of strategy and strategic decision making? And if you were to leave the audience with one tip around supercharging their commercial strategies with AI, what would that be?
That would be, don't get rushed in action-oriented mindset. Don't rush into too much pilots, etc., or bling stuffs. The ecosystem is still evolving rapidly. What you're doing, in my view, is adding more legacy that you need to cope with later. Balance the innovation with actually foundationally revisiting and streamlining the business process you're having, which will allow you in the future to deploy and implement solutions at scale. Moving into bling now and focus on quick value, you don't address the root cause. Yes, there's a balance. You need to, of course, keep the sexy bit for the organization and show the progress and what's possible, but make sure it's a well-balanced move you're doing there.
Thank you, Chetak. If you were to leave the audience with one advice of how to supercharge their commercial strategies with AI, what would that be?
Yeah, for me, the point is everything that shines is not gold. Everything that ends with .ai is not really AI. So there's a lot of noise out there. The challenge is how you navigate through the noise. At the same time, having this mindset, as I said before, perfection is enemy of good. How you really have that experimentation mindset to at least try a few things, because as we said before, this trend is here to stay and will only gain momentum. And the question is how you pick your right business challenges to address with AI.
Another great perspective. And Edita, what would be your one advice for the audience?
I think that experiment. Don't be afraid of experimentation and actually failure. Because some great things can and actually treat this as a partner, something that it's a part of our reality, not as a threat, actually, because we can really upscale our capabilities and our ways of working if we just use it in a smart way.
Well, this is another great perspective, and there are plenty of comments that our audience agrees or shares slightly different perspectives. Cedric, how Gen AI tools would learn to differentiate good versus wrong insights? Is garbage in, garbage out, otherwise learned by error is indeed a mindset to keep? Couldn't agree more with that. This is something I would be happy to follow up, because we have really mastered it at IQVIA with a plethora of data sets that we are now applying generative AI, and we're really benchmarking it, different models under different conditions, under different questions. Very happy to connect with that. I would like to conclude the webinar 1 minute before it closes. Thank you so much to the panelists for these honest perspectives, sharing real life examples. Love the engagement from the audience. Thank you all so much for sharing your comments, for asking questions throughout. Artificial intelligence is definitely at an inflection point. We've seen that it works today. It is part of our everyday life. Chetak talked about it. It's part of the dinner conversation. And as we continue to face challenges around privacy, around trust, around compliance, around talent, around delays, we've talked a lot about that, and around the ethics that Amy talked about, and it's important. There is appetite from us to realize the value, to explore further the AI opportunity. I and the panelists look forward to reconnecting with you as a follow-up to this webinar. Thank you so much again for joining us with us today. Thank you to the panelists, and thank you to the audience, and thank you to Reuters for hosting us.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Have a lovely
Great
day.
questions. Bye-bye.